The contractor who installed your gutters last spring almost certainly ripped you off. Not by padding his hourly rate. Not by buying himself a vacation with your deposit. He ripped you off in a way that's completely invisible to you right now, but will cost you thousands of dollars in fascia rot, foundation damage, and reinstallation within the next decade. And the worst part? It's technically legal, because nobody told you what to ask for. Here's the number that exposes the entire game: 0.027. That's the aluminum thickness, in inches, of the gutters being installed on the majority of American homes right now. It's the industry minimum. It's the cheapest material that still qualifies as a gutter, and contractors are selling it to you at the same price, or close to the same price, as the material that actually holds up, which is 0.032-inch aluminum. That's only 18.5% thicker, but that tiny difference is the line between gutters that survive an ice storm and gutters that deform, sag, and pull off your fascia by their fourth winter. So today, we are going through every single place the gutter industry quietly cuts corners: gauge thickness, downspout sizing, hanger type, hanger spacing, gutter guard scams, and the seamless versus sectional deception. By the end, you'll know more about gutters than 95% of the contractors bidding on your job, and you'll know exactly what to say to make sure you're not the one paying for their shortcuts. Let's start with the gauge lie, because this one alone is worth the whole video. When you call a gutter company, you will almost never hear the word gauge come up in the pitch. You'll hear linear feet, you'll hear color options, you'll hear about their warranty and their family business since 1987. What you will not hear is whether they're installing 0.027 aluminum or 0.032 aluminum, because that distinction runs about $95 to $150 more per job on a standard 150-foot home, and they would rather pocket that money than educate you. Here's what those two numbers actually mean on a real house. A Michigan roofing contractor tracked 12 comparable homes through a single ice storm season. 6 homes with 0.027 gutters, 6 with 0.032. After one serious ice event in a Zone 5 climate, every single one of the 0.027 homes had visible sagging and deformation. 4 of those 6 had hangers that had pulled completely loose. The 0.032 homes? All 6 were fully intact. Not a single one needed adjustment. The material cost difference per home was $150 max. But the reinstallation cost coming for those 0.027 homeowners is going to run anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 depending on linear footage and region. Think about that. $150 of material to prevent $4,000 of damage. And the contractor made that choice for you without telling you he was making it. If you live anywhere that gets real winters, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Colorado, 0.027 aluminum is not an acceptable specification for your home. Full stop. If your contractor doesn't mention gauge, you ask, are you installing 0.027 or 0.032? If they say 0.027, ask what it costs to upgrade. If they tell you they don't offer 0.032, you call someone who does. Now let's talk about downspouts, because this is the one that nobody thinks about until their gutter is overflowing in a rainstorm and they're wondering why they just spent $2,000 on a system that can't drain. Downspout sizing is not an aesthetic choice, it's an engineering calculation. The basic rule: a 2 by 3 inch downspout handles approximately 600 square feet of roof area. A 3 by 4 inch downspout handles about 1,200 square feet, and that's under moderate rainfall. In high precipitation zones, go even more conservative. Most contractors default to 2 by 3 downspouts on every job. Cheaper to source, easier to handle, adequate for a small ranch house in a dry climate. But if you have a 2-story colonial with a large roof footprint, or you live somewhere that gets serious summer storms, the Southeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Upper Midwest, you need 3 by 4 downspouts, and you need enough of them. 1 downspout per 30 to 40 linear feet of gutter, placed at low points and corners. Here's how to run a quick check on your own roof. Measure or estimate your roof's total surface area. For a simple 2-story house covering 1,500 square feet of ground floor, your roof area might run 2,000 to 2,500 square feet once you account for pitch. Divide that by 600 to figure out how many 2x3 outlets you need minimum, or divide by 1,200 for 3x4s. If your current downspout count doesn't match that math, your system is undersized, and every serious rainstorm is sending water over the lip of your gutters, straight down your foundation wall. Foundation water intrusion from improperly drained gutters sits among the top 5 causes of basement moisture problems in American homes. We're talking about a potential $10,000 to $30,000 repair that traces directly back to a downspout that should have been a size bigger. Now, hangers. Old school contractors reveal themselves here immediately. 2 hanger systems exist in residential gutter installation. The modern system, hidden hangers, screw-in clips that mount inside the gutter and attach with a long screw directly into the fascia board. Strong, invisible, clean. The legacy system, spike and ferrule, a giant metal spike hammered through the front of the gutter, through a tube inside called a ferrule and into the fascia. And here's the problem with spikes. Wood breathes. It expands when it's wet, contracts when it dries out. Do that hundreds of times over 5 years and the spike loosens. It has to. The wood fibers around the spike compress and the hole gets bigger every single season. A residential inspector in Maryland tracked spike and ferrule installations over 15 years in the same neighborhood. At 5 years, 1 in 5 had loose spikes. At 10 years, 65% needed respiking or full replacement. At 15 years, 90% were loose. That's not normal wear. That's a design flaw. And fixing it costs as much as the original install because you're paying for another full rehang. The hidden hanger installations in that same neighborhood at 15 years? Less than 5% needed any adjustment. If a contractor shows up to quote your job and mentions spikes, or if he's replacing gutters and you see him pulling out spikes and putting new spikes back in, get a second bid. Hidden hangers cost marginally more in materials and take a few extra minutes per hanger to install. That's exactly why some contractors skip them. And speaking of spacing, this one is invisible and almost no consumer ever checks it. Professional standard for hanger spacing runs a maximum of 36 inches apart on a moderate climate install. In snow and ice country, that drops to 24 inches. Because when a gutter fills with ice, the load is enormous. And if your hangers sit 48 inches apart, the gutter sags in the middle of every span. That sag compounds. It pulls the adjacent hangers. Eventually, the whole run starts separating from the fascia. A lot of contractors run 48-inch spacing as their standard. Some go even wider. You won't see it from the ground while the crew is working, but after the job is done, check it yourself with a tape measure. Walk the roofline and measure between hangers. Spans consistently over 36 inches mean that contractor cut corners on your job. Document it. Call them back and require rehanging at proper spacing before you write the final check. Let's shift gears to one of the biggest dollar-for-dollar scams in the home improvement industry right now. Gutter guards. Specifically, leaf filter. You've seen the commercials. You've gotten the mailer. And if you've ever called for a quote, you've sat through the pitch, the high-pressure same-day offer, the price that seems to drop every time you hesitate. The "this offer expires when I walk out your door" urgency. Here's the number they don't show you in those commercials. $22.66 per linear foot installed. That's the verified average from hundreds of documented consumer reports. For a standard 150-foot gutter run, you're looking at roughly $3,400 for the guards alone. Now here's the number that should make you furious. $2. That's approximately what a linear foot of DIY micro mesh gutter guard costs. From brands like Raptor, which runs the same core technology as leaf filter system, the same fine stainless mesh, the same concept of letting water through while blocking debris. On a single-story home, installation is a weekend project. You're looking at $300 in materials versus $3,400 in contractor charges. To be fair, some homes need professional installation. 2-story rooflines with steep pitch are not a safe DIY project. And leaf filter does sometimes replace or clean gutters first, which adds some legitimate cost. But a 15-to-1 price ratio for the same technology is not a premium service charge. That's a markup that exists because most consumers don't know there's a DIY option. Here's what makes the leaf filter math even worse. The warranty. Their lifetime clog-free guarantee sounds bulletproof until you read the fine print and find out that keeping the warranty valid requires annual professional cleanings at $150 to $400 each. So you're paying $3,400 up front for a clog-free guarantee that demands $200 a year in maintenance to stay valid. Leaf Filter holds an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau despite thousands of consumer complaints, because the BBB grades on complaint resolution, not customer satisfaction. They respond to complaints. That's all it takes to score an A+. Don't confuse the rating with an endorsement. The Better Business Bureau situation deserves its own video. For now, trust the reviews, not the rating. Let's get into seamless versus sectional gutters, because storm-chasing contractor crews make serious money off this gap in consumer knowledge. Sectional gutters are the kind you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's. 10-foot lengths, assembled on-site with connectors, each joint sealed with silicone caulk. They work for a few years, because every joint is a future leak. Silicone caulk in an exterior application that expands and contracts with temperature swings degrades in 3 to 7 years. Every joint becomes a drip point, and water dripping over your fascia board is how rot starts, which eventually means not just new gutters but new fascia, new soffit, and sometimes new structural members behind the fascia. Seamless gutters get roll-formed on-site from a continuous coil of aluminum. A machine on the back of the contractor's truck bends and profiles a continuous gutter to the exact length of your roofline. No joints except at corners and downspout outlets. Professional standard. Has been for decades. No legitimate reason exists to install sectional gutters on a residential job when seamless is available, unless you're a storm-chasing crew that doesn't own the equipment. Here's the scam. Storm-chasing contractors descend on a neighborhood after a hail event or hurricane, quote, seamless prices, and install sectional gutters assembled from big box store stock. The homeowner can't tell the difference. The caulk holds for 3 years. By year 5, the leaks start. The original crew is long gone. You're back to square one, paying for another full installation. How do you tell seamless from sectional after installation? Run your hand along the inside of the gutter at the 10 to 12 foot marks. Feel a connector, a raised metal lip, a seam, a bead of caulk. It's sectional. Smooth from end to end until you hit a corner or downspout outlet. Seamless. You can check before you make final payment. One more specification that almost never comes up in contractor conversations. Gutter width. Most residential homes get 5-inch K-style gutters. That's the standard. But 6-inch K-style gutters hold 40% more water at the same slope. 40%. And the material upgrade from 5-inch to 6-inch aluminum seamless typically runs 30 cents to 60 cents per linear foot. On a 150-foot job, that's an extra $45 to $90 in material. For 40% more capacity. Steep roof? Large roof area? Live somewhere that routinely drops 2 or 3 inches of rain in a 2-hour thunderstorm. The Pacific Northwest? The Southeast Coast? 5-inch gutters might be the wrong specification for your home. Ask the contractor about 6-inch. If they say you don't need it, ask them to show you the math. If they can't show you the math, that's your answer. Last thing, and it's invisible too, slope. A properly hung gutter drops 1/4 of an inch for every 10 linear feet. Enough slope to drain water to the downspout without letting debris accumulate and pond. Gutters with insufficient slope pond. Ponding water accelerates rust on steel gutters, promotes algae, breeds mosquitoes in summer, and forms ice dams in winter, pulling the gutter away from the fascia from the inside out. You can't see slope by looking, but you can test it. After the job is done, run a garden hose into the far end of the gutter, the end away from the downspout. Turn it on full, then shut it off completely. If the water drains out within 60 seconds, slope is adequate. Still standing water 2 minutes later? The run isn't pitched correctly. Call the contractor back before you pay the balance. Every single failure we've covered today, the thin gauge, the undersized downspouts, the spike hangers, the wide spacing, the sectional gutters sold as seamless, the overpriced gutter guards, every one of them is preventable. All it takes is knowing the questions before the contractor shows up. Ask about gauge, 0.027 or 0.032. Ask about downspout size relative to your roof area. Ask whether they install hidden hangers, and ask them to show you one. Ask about hanger spacing. Ask the crew to let you see the truck. Seamless Contractors roll form on site, and the machine will be right there. Ask for line item pricing on gutter guards before you let them explain how much you'll love the product. The gutter industry counts on you not knowing any of this. Low attention purchase. Nobody posts pictures of their gutters on Instagram. Nobody reads reviews before signing a gutter contract the way they do before buying a car. So the industry gets away with decades-old hanger systems, minimum spec aluminum, and $22 a foot gutter guards that cost $2 at the hardware store. Because most people sign and hope for the best. You don't have to be that person. Here's what I want to know from you. Has a contractor ever installed something on your home that you later found out was garbage spec, gutters, or anything else? Drop it in the comments, because those stories are exactly how other homeowners learn what to watch for. If this video saved you from a bad install, or if you're now walking outside with a tape measure to count your hangers, hit the like button. Share it with someone who's about to get new gutters, or anyone who owns a home and trusts contractors more than they should. Make sure you're subscribed, because next we're getting into another home improvement category where the markup is even more extreme, and the spec game is even harder to detect. You won't want to miss it.